Wild Card Weekend kicks off with pro football today at 10 a.m.
And you know SportsGrid will have you covered the entire way.
Join in-game live during the Chargers and Texans matchup at 4 p.m. for in-game betting opportunities. And right after, the Steelers and Ravens continue their historical division rivalry.
Taking a look at some in-game betting opportunities in terms of the prop market.
Don't miss a second, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot, cherry.
For a big man.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 3 live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across that Spiz Grizz network. A third and final hour, for the most part, dedicated to the college football playoff. It is game day once again in the CFP on this Thursday night in Miami. It's the Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State. Both the Irish and the Nittany Lions looking for a spot in a national championship game to claim that first national crown in nearly 4 decades. We continue our full breakdown from each and every angle in this third and final hour. We'll hear from the people about tonight's Orange Bowl between the Fighting Irish and the Nittany Lions. And then we'll hear from the mastermind of the college football pigskin, Joe Lisi, later on in this third and final hour. We'll get you that early prop perspective for the start of a wild card weekend in the NFL with Tom Vecchio in just a little bit as well, and some of the action around the association and on the hardwood tonight in basketball. DRS, a jam-packed third and final hour here on this Thursday.
Absolutely. Action never stops here. And we have to start like this is the start of something really good. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, playoff games in college football and in the NFL. Doesn't get better than that. And certainly every night giving you something. I'm actually more excited about this game tonight, Notre Dame and Penn State, than I am for Ohio State and Texas, which we think is going to be a fun game and a much higher scoring game. But there's a lot of edges tonight to go over. And also, keep in mind at the FanDuel Sportsbook, betting live could be key tonight because Ben understands this. You look at Jeremiah Love, who's not going to start the football game. Let's say he doesn't get a lot of touches in the first quarter. You understand what that game plan is going to be. And the same thing with Penn State. Who's going to be chasing around Riley Leonard? Is it Abdul Carter shot out of a cannon, which he's been the entire season? Or is he only coming in on third downs to sort of try to save him? There's different angles to play, even if you're playing pregame and or live in-game stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, DRS. And because of that injury perspective to 2 key significant contributors for both schools on different sides of the football, you'll get a feel of what the game flow looks like tonight. And if we are going to see any offense for a very low total of 45 and a half. But before we give you more of our thoughts on this game and break it down, take another deeper dive into the player props for tonight's Orange Bowl. We get to hear from the people. What is the best bet between Notre Dame and Penn State? We all find out together and fade the public. That's a lot of love from the public. Nearly 250 votes. The people fired up for game day once more in the college football playoff in the 12-team era. Out at SportsGrid on Twitter. What is the best bet for tonight's college football playoff semifinal game? The Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State. Is it the Irish as a slight 1.5 favorite, now just minus 120 on the money line? Only a 20-cent difference to where Penn State stands. Even money, plus 100, getting a 1.5. Could it be the over of that minimal total of 45 and a hook, or are we leaning under? DRS, it's really a toss-up between 3 of our 4 options. Most of the public, 35% backing the Irish tonight as a slight favorite, but 31.5% also voting for Penn State. More than 27% of this vote leaning on the under, points at a premium. Which way did DRS vote in this Fade the Public poll?
Yeah, went to Penn State plus 1.5, so the slight dog here based on this public poll, but also it'd be a little bit more alarming if, let's just say, if Penn State and or Notre Dame had like 50 or 60% of the vote coming in with a line that's basically a pick 'em at minus 120 plus 100 on that money line number. So I don't feel too bad about sort of fading the public, but it is really close. And also, there are key edges on both sides. This is going to be a good football game, and also we're expecting it to be closer to the vest as opposed to a game that might have 55.5 or 65.5 points. So points certainly will be at a premium tonight, and long drives are what we're anticipating. For me, I just think Penn State overall has the better players at running back, at tight end, maybe at wide receiver, and the quarterback who can deliver those passes. But both of these football games have won all year long. And also the thing we like about this game, for the past 25 years in big game spots, you don't notoriously think of Notre Dame and Penn State winning in absolute big spots. Somebody tonight is going to have to win in a big spot, and it's going to be fun to watch to see which team does it and which team doesn't.
Notre Dame won its first major bowl game with the victory in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia in more than 3 decades. Penn State has won major bowl games that they have been expected to win on the outside of the college football playoff in the last few years. The Nittany Lions, even if it's only 20 cents, though, an underdog for tonight's Orange Bowl. The Nittany Lions, with James Franklin, since 2022, 0-6 straight up as an underdog. 1-5 against the spread. The only cover for Penn State back in the 2022 matchup against Ohio State. They lost that game by 13, but with a late touchdown, came through the back door to cover as a 15.5-point dog. Penn State expected to win a game as good as you will find, and I mean that at the power conference level. But even when ever so slightly not expected to win outright, that's where things become tricky for the Nittany Lions. Big matchup between Marcus Freeman, trying to prove he is on the upper echelon of coaches in college football, even on the younger side, and for James Franklin to win a game that often Penn State has not. And Donnie, that's a part of this conversation and narrative as well. Penn State was expected to blow out SMU at home inside Beaver Stadium. Check. They were expected to cruise past Ashton Genty and Boise State. They did exactly that. Check. But this is a time where Penn State is catching points, and that has been an issue for Penn State under James Franklin. Let's talk more of the matchup tonight, those key matchups that I would like to highlight as well. Notre Dame against Georgia, just 66 yards allowed on the ground, 2.2 yards per carry. Against Indiana, a better rushing attack than even that of UGA this year, only 63 yards allowed, 2.1 yards per pop. Notre Dame throughout the regular season allowed more than 133 yards per game, because you can't often throw on Notre Dame, who has been a top 5 passing defense in all 3 seasons under Marcus Freeman. This year, 3rd best passing defense statistically in all of college football. Nobody takes the ball away better than Notre Dame as well, DRS. 31 takeaways this year, the most in FBS college football, 148 points off those takeaways, also the most in college football.
Yes, and I agree with you on that, because when you're winning football games, what do most people say? Who's going to win the turnover battle? Because if you do that, you're giving yourself extra possessions and stalling out drives for the opposing team. But if we are saying, all right, Penn State, can they move the football in the air? I do believe they can. Harrison Wallace, not a great wide receiver, but certainly a solid one. But Tyler Warren at tight end certainly provides that extra oomph, which a lot of teams don't get the luxury. He can run the football, he can throw the football, he can catch the football. He does it all. So when you're looking at Notre Dame in that secondary, they're going to be tested tested because Drew Aller has one of the best arms in college football. If they're able to connect, and we're not talking about 275 plus in the air. We talked about his price point around 183 to 185. If he throws for 200 yards, that means you're keeping that team honest, which gives you extra rushing lanes to lean on that defense for 4 quarters. And eventually, one of those 2 running backs, if not both of them, will be able to break through as we've seen in the past. I just think the design of Penn State executing against Notre Dame's defense is going to be a little bit easier than Notre Dame's offense executing against Penn State's defense. And we're sort of looking at Jeremiah Love as that X factor. If he's 100% healthy, he can make the big play in the passing game and also in the running game. Yeah. But if he's not, it turns into a more methodical game without a great passing game. I just think it's going to be a little bit tougher for Notre Dame to score than Penn State.
Running backs on the other side in the biggest games this year for the Nittany Lions. Big Ten title game, their 2 matchups in the college football playoff. Both Katron Allen and Nick Singleton in the same games have had at least 70 rushing yards. They both are elite. A 2-headed monster in the backfield. More on the early line next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. We are just 2 days out from the start of Wild Card Weekend and the opening round of the National Football League postseason. So to take an early look at all of that, especially from a prop perspective, as the matchups are starting to open up those prop markets, who better than TV? Tom Vecchio of SportsGrid, live right here on this Thursday on TEL. Vecchio, we go rapid fire around all 5 of our matchups this weekend. Of course, a 6th and final on Monday night. but the 5 until we see you again on Monday morning as well. Excited for your prop perspective, and thank you for joining us.
Of course, like you said, rapid fire. We got a lot to get to. None of this preamble stuff. Let's just hop right in.
Let's go right to it, Vecchio. Let's go right in. Chargers and the Texans in our first game of 2 on Saturday. 2.5-point spread in favor of the Bolts. Total still standing at 42.5. We see a road team as a slight favorite in H-Town. What are the numbers telling you, Vecchio, about how this game is expected to be played early on Saturday?
Probably a much slower game, and we have seen the Texans offense be, I don't want to even say mediocre, less than mediocre over the past few weeks. And granted, they didn't play their starters all of last week. They pulled them. We know that. But the game on Christmas against the Ravens, they had 2 points via the safety. So their offense has been legitimately bad over let's call it the past 3 weeks or so. And now they're going up against the Chargers defense, which is pretty solid. So I do expect the Chargers to be, out in front and the Texans to be playing, from behind. So it would probably lead me to the under on Joe Mixon on some of those props. He's also been relatively average over the past few weeks. I've been looking at some J.K. Dobbins unders when it comes to his receptions or receiving yards, just because if they are out in front, he won't be playing that role, and we should be playing a big role for Justin Herbert or Ladd McConkey. That's where I really want to look. I'm also pretty consistent when it comes to the under overall in this game, and maybe a Texans team total. I just don't see this as being a high-scoring game at all.
Saturday Night Football, primetime Steelers-Ravens. Bring your Advil for this one. And by the way, the Ravens close to a double-digit favorite at the FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 9.5 time and a total of 43.5. Can Pittsburgh hang around? And also, maybe some player props that you're looking forward to in this game, too.
I really don't think the Steelers can hang around, and I'm almost tempted to take the over on this because I think the Ravens can get there by themselves. They win this game 31-17. That's not out of the question. I don't think we'd be shocked if that was the answer. The Steelers not putting up a whole lot of points on offense. Essentially, the Ravens would cause this game to go over, I'm going to say 80% by themselves with their offense. And we will see the Steelers playing from behind. Despite that, I actually want to take the under on Pat Freiermuth, under on his receptions. It was minus 114. It's now under 4.5. It's now minus 130 or so. So the line is moving in a good way. They have to get George Pickens going, right? So at the end of the day, if George Pickens isn't getting going, the answer is probably a Steelers team total under because, yes, we have seen Pat Freiermuth put up 7 and 8 receptions over the past 2 games, but that's when George Pickens is doing absolutely nothing. So the way the Steelers stay in this game is having Najee Harris have a big ground game. And if that is the case, that means Pat Freiermuth and probably everyone in the passing offense isn't having a massive game. So it has to be a run game from the Steelers or George Pickens. That is their path to victory.
When you get a divisional duel, of course, there is familiarity, but it also gives you a sample size in direct head-to-head matchups. First game this year in Pittsburgh, the Steelers win outright as a home dog. Total 48.5, well under. That matchup in week number 17, 45.5 was the total. It skies way over because Baltimore scored 34 points. This total now 43 in a hook, the lowest for any of the 3 games between the Steelers and the Flock this year. DRS, quickly, what did you mean by bring your Advil for this game? It's hard-nosed AFC North rivalry?
Come on.
Or we're not going to
What kind of football did you play out in California, huh? What did you guys do? Come on. You got in hot tubs? We didn't have that luxury over here on the East Coast.
Spread it out, hot route. You would have loved it. As a speedy wide receiver in the slot, you would have loved it. Vecchio, that's a 9.5-point spread between the Ravens and the Steelers. The other large spread we have this weekend, 8.5 in favor of the Bills in our first of 3 games on Sunday. Total stands at 47.5. 2-part question. Do you think this game stays within the margin and is competitive? Second part, if so, who is the player? What is the prop that has that be the case?
Probably not. I don't think it'll say. I think the Broncos will win by not the Broncos, the Bills. The Bills will win they'll win by 10 points. They're going to cover this number. They're going to win. They just are the far superior team. I do expect the Broncos, that is, of course, to be playing from behind. And a Bo Nix interception late in the game may cause this to go over, may cause the Bills to cover that number. And as I spoke about on Monday, Bo Nix over on passing attempts, right? That was sitting at 34.5, a little bit of juice there. That number has moved to 35. So early in the week, we are on some good lines, nice and early. Again, I expect the Bills to cover and win. They're just the far superior team, and unders when it comes to Javonte Williams rushing, Audric Estime rushing. The Broncos are just not going to get it going on the ground.
Maybe the most anticipated game of Super Wild Card Weekend, as we'll keep the mojo going with that. Packers and the Eagles 4.5-point line, 45.5 total. We had a rematch from week 1 here in Brazil, now in Philadelphia. Tom, what are you looking at here?
I'm looking at some unders when it comes to A.J. Brown receiving, and I think he's one of the best receivers in the league. He's the cornerstone of my dynasty fantasy football team, but ultimately under 87.5 is the spot to go, as we were talking about just before we came on the air. Like, Saquon rushing attempts is what I really expect to shine in this game. And even if A.J. Brown ends with 60 or 70 some odd yards, it's going to be him. It's going to be a balanced offense, obviously, with Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert back, maybe even Grant Calcaterra getting involved. I just think there are too many options on the Eagles offense for one single player to have a game, because if Brown is having to push over to 90, 100 plus yards, we're probably going to be seeing the game fly over. And I just don't expect that to happen with two offenses that like to run the ball. We're going to see the clock bleed out. And it's going to lead to some unders, despite being what could be a very good game, like 6 catches for 70 some odd yards for Brown and a touchdown would be an awesome game. And of course, the Eagles come away with the win.
87.5, a lofty number. Again, look at Tom's top props. Let's put him up there before we get to Sunday night. His early leans for Wild Card Weekend. And an Eagles outright victory, Donnie, is happy. Vecchio, let's finish with this. Final 30 seconds. Sunday night football in Tampa. Bucks, 3-point favorite against the Commanders. What do you like most?
It's going to be a Bucky Irving rushing plus receiving. It's going to be Mike Evans and then Terry McLaurin, of course, running it back. I am expecting points lined open up at 49 or so. It's back up to 50. We're going to see some points in that game. Probably one of the best surprising games of the weekend.
Highest total of the weekend as well. Vecchio, a sincere thank you as always. Around the association up next.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot. Cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
A lot to get to today on this Thursday. Of course, we will continue our preview of the college football playoff semifinal in Miami at the Orange Bowl. It's Penn State and Notre Dame. We'll do that up next with a guy that is looking sharp bright and early on a Thursday, the mastermind of the pigskin, Joe Lisi. But DRS, also a ton of games to break down from the hardwood handicap perspective on this Thursday. Minnesota on the road against the Magic in Orlando. The Magic, a slight home underdog right now, catching 4.5 points, but reports around Orlando, Paolo Banchero, the team's best player, could be on his way back at a point this week. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Line is up to 5.5. I do believe if Banchero was playing, this would be closer to a pick'em. So I think the line is telling us maybe not tonight, Paolo Banchero's return.
Yeah, I have him in the estimated starting lineup here.
Oh,
Anthony,
really?
KCP, De Silva, Banchero, and Badazzi as the lineup. Now, granted, that could change. And also, you see that people get excited where he's coming back. If he's under a minutes restriction, we're like, hey, you're going to get 22 minutes as opposed to 32 if you're playing well. That does make a difference. But you're always buying the narrative because what are most people going to look at? 3.5 is the opening number up to 5.5. Oh, that means he's not playing, but also how well is he going to play? And if he does play, are you just going to take the Magic as if they're back intact with most of their star players? Yeah. I tend to lean towards that line at 5.5, but you know as well as I do, once it's announced that he is going to play tonight, if he does, that line's not going to be 5.5. That'll drop back a little bit.
No player props listed right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook on the Magic side of things. Orlando now a 5.5-point dog. When booked as a dog, often without Banchero, not great covering numbers, 5, 9, and 1 against the spread. There are props out for the Timberwolves, who we know are ready to go for this matchup, including the Ant-Man. 25.5 is his points prop. You see the assist numbers and the rebound numbers as well. That graphic's looking pretty good from a prop perspective. Anything you like on Anthony Edwards tonight?
More points, and more points. Keep it going here at this point. But again, when you're taking a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves and Orlando, we know Orlando doesn't play with a lot of pace. So you see the total. It's like, what's going on? Like, it actually been opened up at FanDuel, New Jersey, 206.5, down to 200.5. Can somebody score in this game? Goodness.
Yeah, it is a very, very low number, almost a playoff total for tonight's game. Really good matchup in the Western Conference between the two teams that sit second and third. The Rockets 24-12, 36 games, 24 wins. The Grizzlies 24-13, 37 games, 24 wins, but just one more L at this moment. And right now on FanDuel, no longer a 2-point line, just one. Basically a pick 'em on the money line, DRS. The Rockets minus 110, a slight favorite in the Grind City, but the Grizz minus 106 on the other.
Yeah, give me the Grizz at this point. That line opened up at 3.5 and has now shrunk all the way down to -1, as you pointed out here. You take a look at the anticipated starting lineup. As long as it's being John Morant and Desmond Bane, I'm going to take Memphis at home to pull out the slight upset.
I'm counting up the games that we have tonight, 9 in total around the NBA, including the Phoenix Suns at home. 6-point favorite against the Atlanta Hawks. The Suns, well below 500 right now, need to figure it out, both in their winning ways and what exactly their rotation is looking like. Bradley Beal expected to be off the bench for a third consecutive game, coming off the bench this week for the first time in 9 years in his NBA career. His props for Thursday, 15.5. That points prop off the bench. Can he still go over, even technically as a reserve?
Yeah, he's going to want to do that because if he wants to pick his spot or waive his no trade clause, you want to at least be doing it in style. And also, don't you want to prove a point? Or are you the type of player that goes, I have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, I'm coming off the bench, I don't feel like playing? That line opened up as a look-ahead line at -3 towards Phoenix, has now risen to 6 at this point, and 238. So we're expecting points. But anytime you see Booker, Durant, and Beal in the lineup for capabilities, I agree with that line movement here. Look, something's been wrong the whole year with the Suns, but if they're healthy enough to play in this basketball game against an underwhelming starting lineup for the Hawks, come on now. You got to be able to win this game, Suns, and cover.
Suns 3 game below 500, 16-19.
Brutal.
Phoenix, the worst cover team in the NBA, 12-23 against the spread. Just awful. Some college basketball action in the Big Ten. Again, home floor advantage. How critical is it in conference action? The Buckeyes now a 3.5-point home favorite against Oregon. The Ducks have 5 quad one wins this year. Tonight's game is that opportunity. Michigan State laying a big number at home against UW. The Spartans still unbeaten in Big Ten play. And again, another home floor opportunity inside the rack Rutgers catching 1.5 against Purdue. A man of the Garden State, through and through. A mastermind of the pigskin, Joe Lisi, joins us next.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays. Jackpot. Cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
For the first time in the first ever 12-team college football playoff, we have reached the Final Four in a semifinal round that begins tonight in the Orange Bowl in Miami between Notre Dame and Penn State. So to help us continue our breakdown, preview, and give out some best bets, who better to join us than the mastermind of the college football pigskin? That is Joe Lisi, and looking very sharp, might I add, bright and early on this Thursday morning. Can we go to the ISO quickly for Lisi, guys, so you can see in its full essence how beautiful that jacket looks? It matches nighttime in Death Valley. It matches the stage and the significance for tonight's game in South Florida. Lisi, guy, as always, we appreciate the time here on the Early Line.
Oh, anytime, guys. Love the show. The Sean Stellato special for the Garden State, breaking it out black on black with a little pinstripe. Doesn't get better than this when Notre Dame and Penn State's on tap.
So, that does get
Donnie,
better than that shirt. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, DRS, you are often the fashion police here on the show. Would you like to be fashion police briefly, just of Joe Lisi's attire for the Orange Bowl tonight?
Like, it looks like maybe he was like a male cheerleader in the 30s for the Chicago Bears or something at this point, right? Like, he got that from his great-grandpappy. I like it, you know what I mean? Bringing it back. 60 years, 70 years in cotton mothballs. Let's go. Your great-grandpappy was a cheerleader for the Bears.
You can't wear this. You can't pull this off. This ain't your style.
I think I can. I need to. Can we get you to stand up though? Like I need. Like, is it a sweater? Like, what is this? Like, can you stand up? Like, can we get widen out and get a preview of this?
Jacket.
Like,
what are you talking about? Style.
I know. Like, it doesn't look. It looks like a sweatshirt. Like, it feels like you like a big M, like in high school. Like, you have like a logo right in the middle of that sweatshirt.
He does.
Go Bears!
He
go!
does.
Yeah.
It does
It's
look a little
jacket.
bit like 1930s-esque, some sort of sports attire or memorabilia. Listen, I think he looks pretty good, but I knew we were going to have some fun here joking around with Donnie. Would you like to say anything in response, Lisi Guy, before we actually break down and preview the game?
Yeah, out of all three of us, I'm the only one that could pull this off. So, so I didn't expect you or DRS to like the jacket. I mean, we're talking about style.
Breakdown of the coat.
It's basically what we're talking about.
I mean, listen, I agree. I would never even think of pulling that off. Never even attempt it. I'm not so
you
sure.
Got to pull it off and
about
throw it
Donnie,
away. How about that?
You're good, man. You're good. When Lisi is here, it just brings even more out of you. All right, let's preview the actual game. The Orange Bowl tonight, the 7th seed Notre Dame, the 6th seed Penn State. And Joe, as we know, and where this line opened up, it was always expected to be close. Notre Dame, a slight favorite, just 20 cents of difference as we get ready for the matchup tonight in Miami. Our lowest of the two totals that we have for our CFP semis at 45 and a hook. Where do you start your breakdown for this game between the Fighting Irish and the Nittany Lions?
Well, I think it really goes to which team were you more impressed with in terms of both of their wins. Were you more impressed with Notre Dame in terms of back-to-back wins against Indiana and Georgia, or were you more impressed with Penn State and their ability to manhandle both SMU and Boise State? I think when you look at Notre Dame and their road right now, they were able to run the football, even though they had the big run week one in terms of the playoffs against Indiana. They still rushed for well over 150 yards. Well over 4 yards per carry in terms of the statistical output, and they shut down Curtis Rourke in that matchup in the rushing attack of Indiana, and they followed it up with another dominating defensive performance over Gunnar Stockton, and I think that's the matchup later tonight. Can Drew Aller exploit that secondary that's basically holding opposing quarterbacks to 50% completion percentage? They've only allowed 12 passing touchdowns all year and have forced 18 interceptions. They're going to need a big day, in my opinion, if you're a Penn State Packer, from Drew Aller in the passing attack. I just don't think they could do it. I think Notre Dame is the more complete team, and that's why I would lay the 1.5 a little bit later tonight, guys.
Let's look at that total, Joe. Sits at 45.5. We just had our Fade the Public poll, and the majority of the public is saying this game is going to be an under. If it is an over, how does it get there? Who are the players to watch out for to help get that over?
I think it's both quarterbacks and Donnie. I'm already booked and booked on the 45.5, and I already altered it as high as 49.5 in terms of the alt market at plus 134. I do believe it's both quarterbacks. Again, I think in this type of matchup, you can't just run the football and expect to have success early on. You have to break tendency, be more aggressive on first and second downs. I think Riley Leonard, his number is 163.5. I think he can get to 175, 200. And on the flip side for Drew Aller, I think it's imperative that Penn State does throw for well over 200 yards if they're going to pull this ball game out. I just have more confidence in Notre Dame and their offensive line than I do Penn State right now. And again, you look at Notre Dame shut down Georgia to 62 rushing yards as well as Indiana. So Drew Aller better have a big day over the top tonight, guys.
So, Lisi, guy, just so you know, and you can add it to the algo if necessary, in our Fade the Public poll, more than 34% Notre Dame with 1.5, laying 1.5, 31% with Penn State taking the 1.5, but basically picking Penn State to win outright. More than 27% on the under, only 5% backing the over of 45 and a hook. That is a Joe Poe special, as he likes it, for tonight's Orange Bowl in the college football playoff semifinal. Lisi, guy, you lean with Notre Dame. You do think we see more points than expected tonight in South Florida. So when you focus on the Irish and how the offensive scheme will look tonight under Mike Denbrock, who needs to step up in the biggest stage of the year for Notre Dame?
Well, obviously it's Riley Leonard, but Faison, Greathouse, those wide receivers need to step up, and we saw it in terms of early success against Georgia. They were able to throw the football consistently, and that allowed Riley Leonard in the rushing attack to take over once they had a double-digit lead. So when you look at Greathouse, he's got a cheap number tonight at 11.5. Faison, I believe, is in the high 20s or 30s. I think he can break out as well. So that's the way I'm looking in terms of both of these players tonight. You know, all the receivers in Notre Dame, and then obviously anytime touchdown is on the table as well for Riley Leonard and the crew.
If we are taking a look at the ground attack, which is going to be prevalent tonight, two really good running backs for Penn State and also theoretically two really good running backs for Notre Dame. But the question is, Joe, if we open this game as you're watching it live on set, Love's a 35.5. If he's not all there or getting the carries, does that just a direct correlation where you now move to Riley Leonard and also the price? Or if he's not healthy, does that mean more of passing attack here, possibility for Riley Leonard?
Yeah, I'm not going to back Jeremiah Love in terms of the total yards, Donnie, because of the injury. If anything, I would take him for an anytime touchdown in terms of goal line situations. They want the bigger back in there, and that could be value for Notre Dame. But I agree with that. I think it's Riley Leonard through the air over the 164.5. Again, I altered him as high as 200. They throw to run the football a little bit later in the matchup. But again, his mobility will be critical. He had 80 yards on the ground against Georgia's defense that could run sideline to sideline. And we saw, Boise State move the football as well. I think Riley Leonard, in terms of the RPO game later in the matchup, if they do have a lead, could be a factor. So I would back Riley Leonard through the air and also on the ground. But I would take Jeremiah Love in terms of anytime touchdown tonight, guys.
Maddox Madsen did throw for 3 bills in the air, albeit with 3 interceptions. Both Penn State's defense and Notre Dame's have been ball hawks and keying in on takeaways all year long. Jeremiah Love, who tweaked that knee injury, re-aggravating it in the third quarter against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. That game against the Dogs, Joe, the only game Love did not score this year, had scored in each of the previous 13 contests for Notre Dame this season. Let's show you the props for Penn State. I'll ask you a question on the other side, and maybe Donnie will do the same for that backfield of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Key for Notre Dame to slow down the rushing attack of Penn State tonight. But Lisi guy, the number on Drew Aller does certainly stand out. What does Penn State need out of Drew Aller if they are going to stay in this game? Joe Lisi breaks it down for you up next, live right here on the Early Line. We continue our preview of the Orange Bowl next.
Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays. Jackpot. Cherry. I'm nimble for a big man.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The college football playoff semifinals over the next 2 days, starting on this Thursday in Miami in the Orange Bowl, in a preview of the Cotton Bowl in Dallas tomorrow night between Ohio State and Texas as well. The mastermind of the Pigskin, Joe Lisi, is back for a second consecutive segment. Right before the commercial break, Joe, I mentioned the passing yards prop of Drew Aller. You see it there. It is not overly high, entering the Orange Bowl tonight against Notre Dame, 183 and a hook. If Penn State is going to stay in this game tonight against the Irish and perhaps win outright to book a spot in the national championship, what does Andy Kotelnicki's offense and those Penn Staters need out of Drew Aller in the aerial attack tonight against the Irish?
It needs to look similar to what they did against USC in the second half of that game earlier in the year. They need to spread Notre Dame out and challenge that defense over the top, and then they could run the football with Katron Allen and Singleton later in the matchup. I honestly believe that. I would take away, if I'm Notre Dame, Tyler Warren, so you need those other playmakers to step up. Evans and Wallace at the wide receiver position. And think about what Notre Dame did against Georgia. They took away Oscar Delp, and they took away Lawson Lucky as well in terms of the tight end matchup. I cannot allow Tyler Warren to beat me tonight. He's got a 63.5 number. We know that's the security blanket for Drew Aller in terms of this matchup. Take him away and force the game on the Penn State wide receivers. If they could do that, I think Notre Dame has a recipe to win the game. But if Penn State wins, those wide receivers, Evans and Wallace, need to step up with a huge performance tonight.
Should be a really good game tonight. And then again, another national semifinal on Friday night between Ohio State and Texas from Jerry World. 5.5-point number in this game as a favorite towards Ohio State. Total, Joe, 53.5. Let me ask you this question first. Is there too much recency bias going into Ohio State hammering their previous two opponents and Texas not getting enough respect? Or is that line warranted in your mind?
No, it's not warranted. I think it's just an overreaction of what we saw over the past two games. And again, yes, Ohio State is hitting on all cylinders. Will Howard's playing lights out, completing well over 73% of his passes. Jeremiah Smith, Amika Buka, they're hitting on all cylinders. But again, I think a lot was taken in terms of the game of Texas and Arizona State. People are assuming that Arizona State was just Boise State and SMU, and that's not the case. They were a very physical group. Offense and defensive lines, they were battle-tested, had one of the best running backs in the country. And again, Texas still won that matchup. They won it by 8 points, granted, in overtime, but they still found a way to pull it out. I do not believe that Ohio State's going to have the success that they had against Tennessee and Oregon in terms of the passing attack. This is one of the best secondaries with Notre Dame in all of college football in terms of Texas. They forced 21 interceptions, have only allowed 8 passing touchdowns all season long, and held opposing quarterbacks to 58% completion percentage. I think Texas is live as a dog. I took them on the money line, guys.
So from the yardage output, Lisi guide, Texas has been the best statistical passing defense throughout the regular season, only allowing just a tick over 146 yards per game. I was going to ask you, you think the Longhorns are live to keep this game close and within margin, but you just shared it there. Texas outright on the money line in the in-state showdown for the Longhorns inside AT&T Stadium. Lisa, guy, when you talk about Texas's passing defense, that's one side of the football under Pete Kwiatkowski. But on the other side for that Longhorns offense, coordinated by Steve Sarkisian against the nation's best scoring defense in Ohio State, what do the Longhorns do well offensively to try to win this game outright against the Buckeyes?
Well, I think their passing attack is much better than Tennessee's and Oregon. You know, you look at Oregon, and granted, Dylan Gabriel didn't step up in terms of the first half of that matchup. Tez Johnson was nicked up in terms of the first quarter. Evan Stewart, their slot receiver, didn't even play in that game because he was injured in pregame. We know about this passing attack by Quinn Ewers. They're going to challenge Ohio State over the top. Gunnar Helm, I think, is the X factor as well. He came on in terms of the overtime period against Arizona State. They tacked a 44.5 on him. I think Ohio State has shown at times to be exploited by the tight end. Expecting a big game out of Gunnar Helm, expecting a big game out of Quinn Ewers. Again, I think they have the speed to challenge Ohio State over the top. This is not a slow offense by Texas with Jaden Blue and Wisner coming out of the backfield as well in terms of the passing attack. I think they could create mismatches, and I think it's game on, guys. I don't know if we get over the 53.5. I trend to the under in terms of this matchup, but I think Texas has the speed offensively to put up some points and definitely win this ball game outright.
A lot of question marks around Quinn Ewers, which means how well is he going to play in this game? We'll find out. When he does transfer, if he does, how much money is he going to get? But my question is he going to play this as a complete game, or do we see packages for Arch Manning? And Joe, right up your alley, can I sell you on an anytime touchdown out of Arch Manning at a 12-1 price?
Yeah, Donnie, you can. I mean, that's a great bet. I mean, the reason why I say that is now it's all hands on deck, right? We saw Arizona State push them to the limit in terms of that matchup in the second half. They had a double-digit lead. We've seen Texas at times with big leads. Vanderbilt earlier in the year, they played down and allowed teams back in, right? This is an opportunity in a semifinal playoff game where if they're not starting fast, it's all hands on deck. They need to win this game, and they haven't used Arch in terms of the playoff situation just yet. In a big matchup, in terms of breaking tendency, I think it's a pretty good look, and especially in terms of red zone opportunities. 12-1 is a good look.
Just went to 13-1 as we talked about it. Whew. Well, look at that. Moving line.
Reverse.
The wrong way. Yeah.
Is the market
like it even more,
you
Joe?
Guys? Almost
we like it even more then. Yep.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. And I would just say, Lisi guy, in your projections, right, national championship game a week from this upcoming Monday in Atlanta would be Notre Dame and Texas. The Longhorns right now, 4-1 price, second best number to win a national championship. Notre Dame, 5-1, just 50 cents in front of Penn State. The Nittany Lions, the longest price, but only back at plus 550. If that is how you see it, if you agree with Joe, this is your time right now before the semifinals begin to get in on those national championship numbers with the Buckeyes a minus money odds-on favorite at minus 130. Lisi guy, we send DRS into the money line. You and I stick around to talk a little NFL playoff action. Donnie, enjoy. More on the early line.
Got fired.
Wild Card Weekend kicks off with pro football today at 10 a.m.
And you know SportsGrid will have you covered the entire way.
Join in-game live during the Chargers and Texans matchup at 4 p.m. for in-game betting opportunities. And right after, the Steelers and Ravens continue their historical division rivalry.
Taking a look at some in-game betting opportunities in terms of the prop market.
Don't miss a second, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays. Jackpot. Jerry. I'm nimble for a big man.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line to end out our Thursday show. It's Ben Stevens, that's me, and the mastermind of the pigskin, that is Joe Lisi. We just talked about the Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State, which kicks off tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, our first of two college football playoff semifinals. And wouldn't you know it, the College Football Today crew is together for one of our final two times this season in 2024's college football campaign. Our CFP semifinal coverage begins tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right before we get to kick in Miami. Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh, and myself, Ben Stevens, all together to take you through the entirety of tonight's Orange Bowl, those live betting opportunities, and how we break down the key matchups that will impact the outcome to decide a national champion. I'm looking forward to it, Lisi guy. That much I can say.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what it's all about, Ben. Just spending time with your friends, watching some football, and hopefully winning some money a little bit later tonight. So I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do for the next 5 hours than when the game kicks off. So looking forward to it.
You sound very excited. We'll be together on Football Full Circle on SportsGrid Radio starting at noon Eastern Time as well, where we blend college and the NFL. But at least you got to end out the show. Let's go rapid fire through our 5 games in Wild Card Weekend, not including Monday night in LA between the Rams and the Vikings. The 5 games until everybody is back with us on Monday morning. Of course, a Friday on the early line is ahead as well. Let's start with our first game of 2 on Saturday in Houston. Chargers, 2.5-point favorite on the road against the Texans in H-Town. 42.5 is that total. Lisa guy, what's your favorite play for the first game of Wild Card Weekend?
It's the over 42.5. I think you're going to get a dynamic performance, or at least C.J. Stroud's best. I think it's a big day for Nico Collins. I know L.A. is hot heading into this matchup. They're the more complete team, won their ball game down the stretch against, obviously, New England and how they dominated in terms of week number 18. But for me, it's the over 42.5. I like Houston as a live dog plus the 2.5 points, but I think we got points aplenty. Stroud, Herbert, and both of those passing attacks, I think, open up. So give me the over 42.5.
The Bolts under in 7 of the first 8 games this year, but to end out the regular season, as Justin Herbert started to light it up, over in 7 of those final 9. Our nightcap on Saturday in the Charm City, an AFC North rivalry between the Ravens and the Steelers. 9.5-point spread, Joe, in favor of the Flock, the largest number we are seeing throughout the entirety of Wild Card Weekend. Is it too many points in favor of Baltimore?
I think it is, and I know they played earlier in terms of Week 15, and it was a 34-17 win for Baltimore. They won as a 6.5-point favorite. The 45.5 came in to the over, but I think this game resembles the first matchup in Pittsburgh, a lower scoring game. You want to give me 9.5 points, I'll take it. I don't love this game. Out of all the games this weekend, this is the one that I'm not going to dive deep into, but I like the Steelers plus the 9.5. Just too many concerns, though, for me in terms of Russell Wilson. Last 5 games, he's only averaged $173 through the air. They're going to need a better effort to knock off Baltimore, but I'll take the points with the Steelers on the road.
Pittsburgh ends out the year on a 4-game losing skid, scoring 17 points or fewer in all 4 of those losses. Let's get to Sunday. First game of 3 in the triple header in Buffalo. The Bills also a hefty favorite, north of a touchdown, laying 8.5 against the Broncos. Total 47 and a hook. Joe, what needs to happen in this game to keep it within that spread margin?
Well, Bo Nix needs to make some plays with his legs, not his arms so much. Again, I don't know if Marvin Mims and Courtland Sutton are going to expose that secondary over the top. Has to be the rushing attack, has to be the mobility of Bo Nix. If they could do that, I think they're within the number of 8.5. But I'm taking the other side. I think it's a smash job by Buffalo. Playing at home, rookie quarterback. Now the training wheels are off. We'll see Buffalo pin their ears back and get after it. I think they start fast and dominate this ball game. I think they win by double digits, cover this line, and I think we go over the 47.5 bet.
The Broncos have been an underdog 5 times since the end of week 3. 0-5 straight up, just 1-4 against the spread. Lisa got our 2 games on Sunday in the NFC. Eagles, 4.5-point favorite against the Packers. The Buccaneers, a 3-point home favorite against the Commanders on Sunday night. Quickly, what's your favorite bet?
Yeah, I like the Commanders plus the 3, and I like the Packers plus the 4.5. I think I'd go over in the Eagle-Packer game, under in terms of Tampa Bay, Washington, and we'll see how it plays out.
He's Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. We'll see you tonight for the college football playoff starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The early line returns tomorrow.